Hello everyone, this is Heroes Trivia, and welcome back to day 2 of our Subscribers Game tournament, as Group A is set to wrap up today. But before we jump into our matches, let's first take a look at the current standings in Group A. And after 5 games yesterday, we have Sleeping Phoenix and Wolby Deed at the top with 2 wins each. Looking at the win tiebreaker in terms of time, Sleeping Phoenix is currently ahead, but they do have a matchup today against each other in the second match of the day, and that will sort of determine the tiebreaker situation between them. Shogun Met is still very much alive with only 1 loss to Wolby Deed, so if he wins out today, he can totally become a 3-1 record and be contending for that title of Group A winner. And then finally we have Electric Experience and Odin Wrath looking for their first win, and we start off our day with a matchup between Wolby Deed and Electric Experience. So looking at the composition here as we load into game, Wolby Deed in the green has made yet another small modification to his composition. He's still running Wutugu and Gongdu, where he's bringing horseback huntsmen, javelin throwers, and 2 peasants from Yellow Turban roster as well, but instead of Xu Huang, he's going with a cheaper general in Cao Cao and a more supportive one at that, and bringing 4 Northern Lancer units and 2 crossbow. Now, I really like the 2 crossbow. I think they're really strong in multiplayer game, especially a small number with high piercing damage. It's going to be nice to see them in action finally in this tournament. And for Electric Experience, we have a roster of Lu Zhi, Ma Chao, and Zhao Yun. So Zhao Yun's bringing his unique white horse fellow, and they're going to be pretty excellent in terms of setting fires, but once again, I think a little bit too many unit. They're decent cavalry, but players tend to not use their range cavalry as actual cavalry and charge them. And then we also have 4 Qiang units, shot cavalry for Ma Chao, and 5 Unbreakable Defender of Earth for Lu Zhi. So a pretty interesting comp. We have a strong anti-cavalry all around. It's going to be interesting to see how they get through some of the infantry units, since essentially you will have spear versus spear. Now you can rely on Ma Chao's clear to take care of those javelin units, but it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out on the battlefield. And as we hop into game and look at deployment here, pretty standard. You have basically a spread of the infantry front line, cavalry once again on 2 sides, generals scattered. Not usually a good idea. This might be a habit from campaign where you want to spread things out. And for Wolby Deed side, we have a front line, looks pretty aggressive, pressed up against the forest, all the cavalry in the rear, a couple of the peasant spearmen in the back. Now they have high damage, so if they don't get killed by early wave, and you can see the effects on them, Nature's Ally from Cao Cao and Fury from Wutugu is giving them 20 extra morale points, and that's actually huge. And then we have extra speed bonus for them to close the gap, and their sort of glass cannon, but you can see their armor piercing damage is at 46, so a decent charge in there would do decent damage for them. Front line of the javelins, obviously the 3 javelins they can throw is going to be their main damage. They also have a lot of good formations available to them. And then the cavalry is kind of spread out on both flank as well. So let's see how this game played out. We got the generals pulling back. Now a decent amount of aggressive abilities on both generals. The cooldown for Wutugu was particularly low for off guard. And then for Gongdu we have Desperate Cry, which can't be used unless they're losing, but Killing Ground is the main damage source, 60 seconds. Cao Cao is going to shorten both of that. As Wolby Deed advances, Electric Experience is pulling his troops forward too. Now Lu Zhi is used mainly for his access to Defender of the Empire. It's an excellent unit as it's unbreakable, but overall it's still just a spear guard's damage. They're good at holding the line, not really going to offensively do too much. And we have the harassment of the White Horse Fellows. Excellent unit, as you can see, very good charge. If you use them as cavalry, they're going to do fine. Most of it's for the excellent range, lots of ammos, and decent base damage. They're good at outshooting enemy cavalry archers since they have the extra 50 range, and we'll see if that is used here. The generals are getting pulled together, and you can see they have a range advantage, but they're going for the generals right now, just auto fire. And that will kind of light the forest up, but aside from that, not much is happening. Honestly, should just charge back at the generals. Cavalry need to charge. I think that's a lesson a lot of players need to learn. And let's go. This is overexposed and definitely worth a counter. Luzhi should show up too. Stifling Deluge will protect the units from any sort of smash abilities. There is a micro problem. As you can see, the cavalry is being selected on one target. That's fine. That's not going to be impacted. Yeah, Stifling Deluge is being activated in range. There is no Wisdom River, so Luzhi can't do too much here. And now it's a cavalry versus general fight. Now the infantry should pull over. There's no reason why they need to sit on the side. Luzhi is not in range to protect the Stifling Deluge, and they got the smash ability out, devastating the clumps of cavalry that's being charged at them. And their cavalry that's not being microed at this point. Luzhi does come over here to help, but as you can see, the micro difference here finally being used. Cao Cao is getting chunked. We do have a fight on foot by Will Be Deed versus on the horse by Electric Experience, so this might not bode well. Yes, for the ones that are still on horse, Ma Chao gets killed. They're having a hard time finding actual targets. They can't use abilities because Luzhi is here, so they need to come out and take him out. Need a couple hits, or they can just chase him away. Zhao Yun has dismounted. We can see the 3v1 happening right now, as the cavalry's doing cleanup work as well. Infantry's coming in, crossbowmen doing splash damage. They pick the wrong formation if they're worried about crossbow damage. Zhao Yun has lost enough morale to run away as the cavalry continue their fight. Luzhi retreats back to the infantry. Yeah, the cavalry tend to run away. I don't know why that's the case. It's not a bad matchup for Qiang Marauders. Super high charge, but they're just not using the charge. Getting picked off. Infantry versus infantry. The fire is going to hurt. They're trying to throw the javelins out. It's 80% range block chance is going to be pretty good against that. I don't think that's going to do too much damage to them. It's going to come down to the generals at the end. They just finishing up on these cavalry units, one chasing him down, escorting him off the map. And then they're just getting all the range damage out first. Now Luzhi is protecting those units with his Stifling Deluge, but he might not last very long. As Will Be Deed will do the cleanups and return the troops back to this setting. It's free fire at this point, and they're moving in. It's time to end this. Every single one of these guys have to be killed though. That will be a slightly lengthy process. And as you can see, the fire arrow has been turned off because there's no morale damage to be done. You just end up hurting your own guys. The general should come in, kill off Luzhi, and start smashing. That'll be the quickest way. There's no reason to watch. Dismounting doesn't hurt you at this point. There's nothing to chase down. If Luzhi slips, the cavalry can chase him out. Now, horseback huntsmen, despite being cheap, are not cavalry units. There's really no charge on them. They really can't be used anything except for harassment. 4 is too many. Alright, Zhao Yun got killed. They need to go kill Luzhi. Charging in here doesn't do anything. They can't do any of their abilities. I think he has realized that and making a turn. There we go. He needs to go down first, or else they cannot clear the units fast enough. Honestly, the arrows should stop. A lot of this is going to be slash onto friendly fire. There's really no point. You're not going to do much damage to it, 80%. Alright, the cavalry's going to chase him down, make sure he doesn't bounce back. And now we can see some smash abilities. Cao Cao's going to be useful in terms of reducing cooldowns. Here's one, and they're just going to mop up these units. And we can play fast forward this part because that is exactly what's going to happen as these defenders go down slowly. Every single one needs to die. I think once again with this match, as with many matches, especially with newer players to multiplayer, there's just a disjointedness to their units. The infantry never went over to help even when it's fighting on your own side of the map. That's your advantage. The enemy takes a lot longer to come over, so you want to use your numbers advantage when that is happening. As we clean up the last few here and end the battle. So still not very long, 8 minutes 39 seconds, and we have Wolby Deed, our winner. Looking at the units, it's not really unit impacting this. A lot of the kill count is really on those 5 units of Defender of Empire. It sort of ended when the initial charge of the general was not responded. It was just passiveness for the cavalry side. Those Town Marauders should have been ready to charge the general once they crossed over half line. And once the cavalry joined in the fight, there was also kind of this delayed micro where certain units were in the fight, certain units were not. Luger was kind of in position for Stifling Deluge for a while, but then they slipped past that and was able to get to smash abilities on top of those clumps of cavalry, which really took them out. And the range cavalry, when you pick something expensive and useful, like the White Horse Fellows, they need to be used also as charge pieces in this case, which they were not. And that sort of ended things. Machal died relatively quickly, as Wolby Deed was the first one to dismount, and that was over after that. So that concludes our first match of day 2, and we'll take a look at the current standings as Wolby Deed moves into 3-0, and Electric Experience still looking for his first win. Now we have our next matchup coming up with Wolby Deed and Sleeping Phoenix, and that's gonna really help determine who will likely win the group. If Wolby Deed obviously goes 4-0 and sweep, he is guaranteed to win the group. But if Sleeping Phoenix take the win, he will also have the tiebreaker for head-to-head, and that's really what we're looking to see. So until then, bye!